of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Can we get a roll call for final reading?
Jeremy Rivas,
I think I'm here.
Red Stone,
Yes.
Steve Bozick, Andy Vasquez,
Here.
Mike Brickner, Greg Sims.
Yes. Here.
Graham,
Here.
7-0.
Turn my mic off.
I turned your mic on
All right. So,
to save us all.
Okay.
Oh my God.
not too sure where to start. So, there was an email that went out by the auditor's office after, we left here in second reading. We had some work to do to try to do some shifting around, as we always do at the end. Second reading gets chaotic. Our goal has always been to take care of our employees. We started off on an adventure with a wage study a couple of years ago, and our promise was to tackle that wage study as fast as possible. So it was our goal to get it done in 2 years. We know we couldn't do it in 1 year, so it was to try to do it in 2 years. And I think that was our goal, is to uphold our commitment to the employees and kind of have a reset of, equity, fairness, to try to, categorize everybody the best we can, bring everybody up, pay the position, not necessarily the person, and, parity, equality, all that. It wasn't perfect. I'm certain that there's some things that we'll still have to continue to clean up over the years, but it was well overdue. Somebody said the last time we did it might have been 40, 50 years, so probably the first time Biggs was here, Commissioner. I say that, and I would say that with him if he was here. Yes, absolutely. So, it was overdue. So we did it, and it's been costly. The last 2 years, it's been costly to us, as we've been a pretty conservative body up here over time. So I think when we're done here today, if everything gets approved, I think the reoccurring raises will have totaled over $3 million in the last 2 years. We add in the stipends, it's really, it's close to $4 million we've given our employees. And, as long as I'm up here, and I have been, and most of us, we fought for our employees. And that's what we've done, and that's what we did, especially the last few years. And the timing couldn't have been better, with inflation, with the economy the way it is, and the competitive market. So I don't think the timing could have been better. But I'm absolutely certain that there's going to be a number of employees that still aren't happy, and I get it. We're trying, we really are. So to finish the wage study and still give raises out, we had to hold the line on employees this year. So, and that was the email that went out, kind of laying that out. No new employees. Let's finish the wage study. Let's make sure we can give raises on top of the wage study, and let's hold the line on employees. And attempt to address it maybe next year. So, but this is personal services, and it's not cheap, but we've done a good job. But there's a lot of other funding deficits, issues that we have out there. We don't have a permanent road funding source. Thank God we've been really conservative over the years, and we've had some piles of cash in some different accounts, and we're really going through that right now. Stormwater, we implemented a fee 6-7 years ago, and went to work right away and had to bond, and we're probably worked our way through that fee. We have an ambulance contract that's coming up that's probably going to double or triple. And those are, that's infrastructure, that's, the public safety. So we've got our work cut out for us. I think Red, when you came on the council earlier in the year and we were talking, I said, one thing about government is there's always something to do and there's never enough money to do it. And it's true. So, but I think we've been up here working hard, and I hope the employees, department heads, elected officials can see that. I don't want to shortchange anybody with the employees. I know there's a few people that may have not gotten the email that want to come and pitch their case to us one last time, and absolutely give you that time to come up here. Maybe it's something we can look at early next year. I know the mantra's always been, well, where you at in budget time? But we told you no during budget time, right? So, and we're trying to be consistent. No new employees. Let's get through this wage study and the raises. So, I want us to just be mindful as we flip the calendar, and we have some of these people coming back and maybe finding different funds to try to do what they're trying to do. So. I'll open the floor for any department heads to, throw stuff at us, yell at us, give us a sales pitch one last time, and then we'll discuss, and whatever happens, happens. But my hope is that we hold the line of what we approved in second reading, and we don't add employees. We give out the raises and we move forward and figure, address things early next year. So, has anybody got anything to add to that? Please, if you want to say anything?
Do you want to kind of specify what we're planning on doing here with the actual increases? So, I mean, in case they didn't read the letter, or do you want to bring that up now?
Well, I mean, in what specific regard? So we started moving things. Obviously, the cost of running the jail, it has gone up a lot over the years, and we've had to move some of that stuff. So we moved things out of the general fund. Commissioners, Red and I met with the commissioners, Scott and Commissioner Biggs, and the auditor's office, Dave and Ryan, and we started shifting things from the general fund into the CCD budget and stuff into the foundation budget too. So there's a lot of shifting around to try to relieve some pressure out of the general fund so that we can, continue to give these type of raises out. So, I mean, that was the big thing without getting into, the specifics, Andy, moving, food and grocery stuff, the Motorola stuff, tasers, the food stuff. We kind of went back and we kind of messed them up a little bit, shoved a bunch of stuff into that data processing public safety fund. So we had to pull things out of that and put it over to the commissioners. And the commissioners, I applaud them for, bringing their numbers and the information and helping us move this stuff around. They worked with us, and I applaud them, for that. Yeah. So, and I think to finish the midpoint was $800-some thousand, to give 3% raises, 900 maybe some thousand, so just to give the midpoint and the 3% raises, 1.7 million, and then, we're trying, public safety is important. So, the thought was, can we find the room to add another 2%, to the sheriff, the merit officers, and our prosecutor's been relentless with his by the numbers, and could we, because we want to have the best top level attorneys, fighting and winning the cases and putting the real bad people away, the murderers, child molesters, rapists, the really high, for sure, right? And we want the best. So, we're trying to work with him, and I think it was like $30,000 he was able to, spread on his top attorneys too, continually trying to work with him at. So, but also, what we were able to do it to, Andy, because it was we're receiving that more money in the interest, through the treasurer's office, and thank you, Michelle and her staff for finding that, because I'm not sure what we would be doing right now if that revenue, but this added, I think we're gonna maybe a proven increase to the general fund at right around $2 million, which is more than I've ever done since I've been here. But that is still spending less, or right around half of that new revenue that we're, getting. So we're still being very conservative in what we're doing. But the mindset was too is, Red just reminded me, and I think you guys all got the email from Lee about IT. Technology is it's not cheap, and we got to continue it. Again, it's that capital expenditure that we lack, I think, whether it's IT, whether it's stormwater infrastructure, whether it's roads. My thought, and hopefully we can tackle these IT tickets as they come up, with that other revenue as one-time expenditures, with that new revenue that the treasurer's office has helped us bring in. And I'm not even sure I saw, when I glanced through it, Lee, I'm not sure I saw the judge's upgrade in there. Maybe I glanced over it and missed it. So we gotta fund that. So, I mean, my guess is we're gonna be looking at a couple $100,000 a year up and down on IT upgrades, really moving forward for a long time. So, we'll continue to do good. We have, but we've been conservative, so we're in a good spot. But I've seen it in any unit of government. It seems like everything's poured into personal services as it should be. But the one thing you always leave behind is the capital, and I think that's where we're at. So I don't know, Andy, if that addressed anything. If there's specific that
No, that's-
or
That makes a lot of sense.
and so if everybody's all right, I mean, I'll open the floor to the department heads to come and give us a pitch, again, and tell us what you're looking for, and if you're gonna throw something, throw it at
No.
throw it at Andy Bozick. So come on up.
Make sure you get the right Andy, please.
Yeah.
I'm Andrew.
Brian, did you have something?
No, I was just volunteering.
For what?
People throw stuff at me.
Oh. I like that. Volunteers. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Why not? Hi, everybody.
No. Just getting warmed up. All right.
Thank you, Jeremy.
No, go ahead.
When I was in front of you all at second reading, I really talked a lot about parity. And I appreciate the wage study, and it really has helped our officers get a higher wage. However, I've talked a lot about youth with mental health issues, and we've pretty much turned into a residential facility, placement facility for youth now. We have to do specialized training for our officers. We have to do hands-on behavior programming, which is very staff-intensive. And what I'd asked for was parity with our jail counterparts. And I just feel like right now, with our training of new officers, it's like throwing money at a revolving door. I mean, it's just throwing money, throwing money, throwing money. People don't stay very long because they can make more money at another place. They could go to the jail and make more money. And then that costs in regards to the specialized training that we have to have for these kids and for the staff. And it's frustrating because I can't keep staff. I can't keep them. And really, with the youth that we deal with, continuity is so important. And seeing new faces left and right is not healthy for these kids. Nor is it healthy for these kids to have us constantly have to train new staff and then have a whole bunch, have some staff over here that are, our go-to people, but then we have all these rookies over here. It frankly causes a safety and security issue for me because of how many newbies we have compared to our veterans. So again, there's vast differences, but what we do with jailers than jailers do. And I'm just asking for parity. Looking at the wage study, I, again, appreciated the raises. However, then I look at the jail counterparts and they're making $5,000 more than my officers. And it's just, it's frustrating. And so that's what I'm asking for. I did a rundown of exactly what that would cost with current staffing levels. And what I also looked at was what was the parity salary, and then I looked at what the midpoint was being proposed for the jail staff, and to come up with what exactly it would be for raises for the staff. For what I look at, a salary increase with all the parity and the midpoint would be about $140,000. You know, I have tried to do supplemental salaries. I know that you all are not happy with probation increases, so I have tried very hard to move those into other funds. I have tried to supplement other salaries out of other funds that I have. I think I've been able to move at least probably close to $70,000 in other funds in order to offset the general fund. I'd be more than happy to share these numbers with you, but that's all I'm asking today is for parity with our jail counterparts.
All right.
How many employees does that involve in your?
For the parity, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 20. 20.
What is that number? I mean, are you talking 5,000 more a year, 10,000? When you say parity, what's that number?
It ranges, it's approximately $5,000 increase per officer.
But didn't you say 140,000?
Yes,
Total.
That's with perf,
total.
probably with perf.
With the
and everything.
perf?
No, that's not,
Not perf.
no, that's just the salary.
Where's the other 40 come?
I think she's probably averaging it.
I can hand this out if you want to.
Yeah.
Might as well figure it, I'd like to see it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You got one though, right?
It starts mainly in the middle. The 2024 salary with the midpoint is listed in gray. And then the next 3 columns shows what the salary parity that I would be requesting, the midpoint, and what the final salary would be for those officers with that.
So this is showing that right now, a big portion of these people are going to get a $542 raise.
Yes.
Mr. President, what is,
Percent, right?
that's what I was going to ask. What are we putting out there? So is it midpoint and then 3 as well? Or,
Yes. Everybody's getting midpoint and 3%
Percent.
okay.
on top of the midpoint. Yes.
And so will the jailers. And so will the jailers.
Well, obviously, and I don't know what that difference is, but when they did this study, that was a pretty detailed study. They didn't compare you to the jail for some reason, and I don't know what that answer is, but there's a reason. So, I mean, they obviously saw some kind of difference. I'm sure there's.
I could show you, I have a breakdown, and I sent all of you an email in regards to all of the breakdown in regards to the differences and the similarities.
Well, and we went over that. You're right.
Yeah,
I read, yeah, we read it.
So you talked with them at the study and you told them about that?
No, I didn't even know that they didn't compare us to the jail. I had no idea until the wage study came out. I had no idea. I had no idea who they even compared us to.
Is it due to risk? Is it more risky to work in the adult jail versus the juvenile system? Like, you can get killed easier? I'm just asking. I don't know.
I didn't think that at all. Actually, I believe the jail staff has, and Sheriff Ballin can speak to this better than I can, jail staff actually has the means to have body armor. They have the means to have tasers. They have the means to have chemical, agents in order to subdue people. We don't have that. We have severely mentally ill kids that we can do verbal de-escalation and some, physical restraints. I could use mechanical restraints with these kids, but you really don't want to do it with youth because, again, that's so traumatic for kids. Of the kids I have in the place right now, over 80% are pending residential placement in a mental health facility, and I have them. Okay, we have to do a lot of specialized training with our officers in order to do verbal de-escalation, in order to help them through their traumas, to talk them down. We have autistic kids that we have to do specialized training. We have highly suicidal youth. So I'm not saying that the people in the jail are worse. I would say that we're the same, and it's the same risk. I just think it's a little bit harder for our staff because we don't have a lot of the weapons and tools in our toolbox like the jail does. It's a little, our hands are tied with that because we have to follow the Department of Corrections standards for youth facilities. It is different than what the jail has to follow. And again, when you're dealing with youth, you really have to focus on their mental health needs and their trauma needs in order to help them so you don't traumatize them even more. We have some pretty mentally ill kids right now. And I just see that getting worse. I mean, COVID really, really messed with our kids. So that's what I'm asking for. I just feel like, again, I feel like we are just throwing money through a revolving door. And it's costing the county money as far as I'm concerned because we train and then they leave. And I have to train again and then they leave.
Say they leave, what is the normal period that they stay?
Maybe 3 to 6 months.
So it's like a stepping stone for something.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't want it to be anymore. I want it to be somebody's lifelong goal to stay there for consistency for our kids, for the staff. I mean, just for staff safety alone, the consistency. When you form a good team on a shift, the likelihood that there's going to be any type of incident lessens so much. But when you have veterans and, only one veteran and 4 newbies, the cohesiveness isn't there, and the ability for them to work as a team is harder. And it's getting hard.
How many of your guys go to the jail? And you said sometimes they,
Sometimes they do.
okay, so that wouldn't.
Or they go to
them
law
out
enforcement, or they,
Okay, but if they're staying within house, so to speak, then the training is kind of a wash, right? I mean, because some of that training, you don't need to do because they've already done some, right? It's still a little different?
Totally.
Okay. All right, for those that don't go to our jail, and how much more money are they making somewhere else to where they're saying we're jumping ship? 2,000, 3,000? Do you ever ask? Okay, so we're guessing.
I don't ask.
So with the raise that we're proposing, might that be enough to keep some of them from jumping?
No.
Well, how do we know that if you don't know why they jumped in the first place?
They jump because they know that they can make more at the jail.
But-
They know they can make more at law enforcement. They know that they can make more, in retail.
Well,
Okay,
And they don't have to be in a hazardous situation, frankly, if they go to, work as a case manager at a mental health facility.
so
It's,
We don't have a
are you absolutely sure that, like he just pointed out, you're not certain that more money would keep them?
I think more money would keep them for sure. I'm confident in that.
but you don't exit an interview to know for sure.
I don't, but when you have employees that feel like they can't stay at a job because they're not in a partnership with somebody, for example. Like for me, I can stay at this job long term because I have a spouse that makes money. Okay. If I have, for example, one of my supervisors, she lives by herself. I mean, she's going to be making $50,000 this next year as a single woman living on her own. That's it. She doesn't have a two income home like some of us do. And I have been told by some of the officers that I can't stay because I need something a little bit more because I'm a single person. Majority of our staff are single.
But when they joined up, were they single when they joined and knew what the salary was?
Yes.
Knew what the conditions were?
And they're using it as a stepping stone to move on, to build up their resume.
Well, if you're interviewing somebody, said this is a stepping stone, should that be a red flag of maybe I shouldn't hire them because?
I don't know that initially.
You ever asked that question? Is that I don't know, is that a question that can be asked? I don't know. But, I mean, if you're gonna hire somebody, it'd be nice if, hey, things are kind of tough. Are you gonna stick around or?
We talk about 5 and 10-year goals, and I always ask them that, and of course the person wants a job, so they're gonna answer it the way they want me to hear it. And they're gonna say, of course I'm gonna be here in 10 years. Yeah, I do ask that.
All right. Well, Allison, I think I'm not certain anything's going to happen right now, but we hear you, and I I don't want the council throwing things at me quite yet. I want to get through tonight. But I think, maybe at the end, we're going to continue a discussion that may give you, a little sense of relief, maybe, or hope. So if you stick around for a little bit. But I appreciate your passion, and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
And thank you for all that they do too. It's
Oh, sure.
the budget's tight. It's not that we
I know.
don't want to do increases.
I know.
And by any means.
I know. I just appreciate you guys letting me talk, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
you had the nerve to come up and talk.
First of all,
You know me, Sylvia. I'm not that scared. I'm not afraid. I'm good.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to follow that?
So I'm Melanie
Melanie.
Gallagher from Porter County Adult Probation. And what I wanted to present to you is not looking at salary increases for officers, but instead looking at needing an additional probation officer. And here is where I would support that argument. We've not had any new officers in over 10 years, but in that time period, the number of people that we are supervising has increased 30%. We're talking about a public safety issue. These are persons that have been convicted of new offenses or maybe that are out on bond for offenses that need supervision when they're out in our community. We've taken on a new division in our department, which is pretrial supervision. That department is tasked with supervising people that are released out on bond while their cases are pending. So these are the same people that we're reading about in the paper that have been charged with sometimes heinous offenses, offenses where people have been hurt or harmed. These are people that are constitutionally entitled to a bond. So they are given a bond, they sometimes get released, and when they come back into our community, and we're all concerned about them in our community, my department is the department that is providing oversight for them. We're supervising them, we're looking for interventions for them to try to decrease any criminal activity that may be going on, to address their needs while they're living with us in our community. We have 14 probation officers currently supervising 3,000 people. We can do the math on that and figure out what those numbers look like. Our numbers have increased significantly. So what I'm looking for is for another officer to come in and maybe lessen the load of our current officers. We're looking at over 300 people on supervision for violent offenses, for drug-related offenses, for child abuse, for child molesting offenses. So these are people that we need to keep an eye on while they're in our community. The reality is, and Jeremy mentioned earlier, that the prosecutor is looking for ways to keep bad guys where they need to be. And the reality of that is those bad guys don't necessarily stay in prison or jail for the rest of their lives. They're getting released back into our community. They're coming back and living amongst us. It's our task, our goal in probation to make sure that we're providing oversight for those people, looking for rehabilitative measures to make them better people when they're living amongst us. Not everybody that commits heinous crimes gets locked away forever. We're supervising people that are being sentenced directly to probation because judges feel like these are that could benefit from some community supervision. We're also supervising people that are getting released from prison. So when you read about those people that maybe get a 50-year sentence because of their heinous crime, they're eventually getting out of prison. And a lot of those people are coming onto supervision for us, which is why it's important that we have enough officers to effectively supervise that population. The last thing that I'm going to throw out to you is we are not asking for a new officer to be paid for out of the general fund. We're asking for that officer to be paid for out of our probation user fee fund. So it is a user fee fund, and where does the money come from? From the people that we're supervising. So the people that are on probation or on pretrial supervision are often required to pay a probation user fee or a pretrial user fee. So we are asking for a new officer to be paid for out of that fund. So they're being paid for essentially by the people that they're supervising.
Is there any way that that fund, if we were to do this, if that fund goes down, I mean, if it depletes, then general fund's got to kick in?
Sure, there obviously is that potential. And what we've seen, and one of the things that I took a look at, is to see whether or not we could support that. Right now, again, You have an increased number of people on supervision, an increased number of people that are required to pay fees. We're seeing that fund really be sufficient. So we're pretty confident that we can support that.
Have you, you said in the last 10 years, you haven't had a new person come on. Have you asked for a new person during that 10-year?
Well, I've only been here for 5 of those years, but in that time period, no, we haven't. So what we've done, and the last time I was before the council, I presented a chart. What we have done is we've tried to make effective use of the resources that we have available. So as we see the number of people on supervision going up, we've grabbed an officer maybe that previously was doing background investigations and moved them over to the supervision side. And now in this time period, we've taken on that new division, the pretrial release, and rather than come before the council and ask for additional funds for that new division, again, we've made use of the resources that we've had and kind of divvied people up to try to have enough people on either side for effective supervision. But now I'm at that point where we're maxed out. I don't have another division that I can grab somebody from to move over to supervision.
So basically, each individual's seeing 220 people. At 3,000 people, 14, that's roughly about 220 people per person that's handled.
So that might be what the average works out to. Now, within our department, we do risk assessments. So we look at the individuals that are on supervision and determine who are the riskiest of that population. So we will divide those people up amongst our officers. So they'll have a
Sort of acuity thing like they do in nursing at what level they are
Yes,
at.
very similar to that, right. So on the lower level, you may have an officer that has 300, almost 400 people on supervision, but those are low-risk individuals. And then on the higher level, I think the average is about between 150, 175 per officer. And remember, those are including our high-risk population.
So,
How much are you asking for?
So the salary for a new probation officer is 41,000 and some change.
How much is in the fund that you had mentioned previously?
So unfortunately, I was one of the people that didn't get the email, and I'm not prepared to answer that question. I believe there's approximately 150,000 in that account. I don't know if maybe somebody from the auditor's office can help. But what we have seen is the balance in that account has been increasing regularly, which is why we're confident that we can support it.
And if for some reason we approve it and you can't support it down the road, does that person?
No, we'll forget by then. That's not even a.
Oh,
I totally have forgotten by then.
No.
You know what happened? You knows.
Yeah,
Have
that's
to
always
ask.
been the rule, especially with grant.
Once it's in,
We have increased the amount of grant money that we've been bringing in as well.
You know, as Jeremy mentioned, we've been under a lot of pressure, the council, and just reiterating what he said, that we've been trying to bring people halfway to midpoint and midpoint this time. And plus, we're giving a 3% raise across the board. And now we will have accomplished this. So what have we sacrificed in being able to do this? No new employees. There for a while, we had freeze on new employees. Jeremy even said, I believe, that we'll be able to look like next year, we'll be able to talk about, additional employees because some of that pressure will be taken off of us. And I appreciate you for coming up here. I know that I hear all the departments, they haven't been able to grow like they've wanted. And all of their issues have not been addressed. But we've heard you, and but that's what's been going on. That was our main goal, was to get this wage study with being able to give the raises. That's my understanding.
and I think I talked to you outside, and let's stay down that path. And again, maybe if you stick around too, and listen, and I'll have some closing remarks that might give you a sense of hope. So,
no promises or guarantees.
yeah. So,
You know what, and I completely understand. You all are in a very difficult situation. I think what made my situation maybe unique is that we were looking to funded ourselves. So that's why I wanted.
And maybe
Presented it.
we look at it early next year.
Okay.
But anybody else?
Thank you.
Like that.
Hello.
It's
was
here
beautiful.
at a recycling. It was a beautiful rainy day. Well, I'm here for a completely different reason. I'm not here for wages, so thank you very much for the wage study. And what I'm here is when I was here last week. So we're a component unit. We do not utilize LAO. We use our own system. Everything that was submitted as our 2023 budget, not our 2024 budget. So if you recall, I think there were a couple questions that I was like, no, I don't recall that. That's not the number I submitted. So the auditor's office and we have sat down and re-reviewed it. And when you compared our documentation, it was strictly the entire 2023 budget was submitted for the second reading. So I'm here to look at the 2024.
So Ryan, would this fall in under our discussion that we had? Was it a different number versus advertising or something?
Advertising is correct.
Advertising is.
Yes. I actually, being a component unit, I was the one who entered it into Gateway. I do actually have the documentation at the higher numbers. It was submitted on September 8th for the higher number for both our general fund and our non-reverting. If you recall, we are a user fee. So we do have our separate funding as the Recycling and Waste Reduction District. This is not part of the Porter County General Fund.
So so what's the issue here? Is with.
So the budget that was approved was the 2023 budget, not our 2024 budget.
Is that because we cut some things out of it, or?
What's the difference in the cost? What are we talking numbers?
On the
$1,000?
completely, so when the original budget was submitted, the numbers that were submitted, the difference was in the operating supply or the operating budget, which was a 65,000 difference. It totals about 100,000 now because at the time when this was submitted and approved by our board, we did not have the wage recommendations from the council. So the difference in the operating budget was 65,700.
What's the supplemental pay?
The supplemental pay, that actually was a notation from 2023, if you recall. So Ryan and I just discussed that today. It should not even be included in that.
It's in 2024 notes.
Oh,
What is the increase then again? It's just the salaries? Is that all?
it sounds like the salaries, we had the salary line item with the 3% correct. The hourly came through as correct. It ends up falling into all of the other operating. So like the supply line items.
Suda went up.
That number right then, Ryan? Is that the number that we're going to read off if we do final reading?
916591 is the number that will be read tonight.
That will be read, and that's the number that you agree with?
Correct, we do.
That doesn't include anything that we didn't vote on in second reading?
So does that just include midpoint salaries? Because I don't have our book. Like, I don't feel comfortable right now.
Yeah, and the 3%, I believe so. All right.
That does include the 3% in that number as well?
So then that number will be read at final reading, the 1.9
Yep.
will be good.
Okay, perfect. And the non-reverting as well should be correct as well. It was originally submitted as the 10,000, and then we had talked about that it was 65,000.
Why is there a merit pay line item on that previous one?
So what the merit pay is a code that we utilize. It is not merit pay. It is what we do our background checks out of.
Oh,
So what's the number, 65,000 on this? Is that,
Correct.
and that's the one you'll read, and that's the one we approved on second reading?
You didn't approve the 65 number. You only approved a 10,000 number because it reverted all back to 2023's numbers.
So that's what we voted on. So what number will you be reading on third reading then?
So for second reading, we read 10,000.
Okay.
And for tonight, it would be the 65,000, which would still be under the advertising amount.
But we did something to lower it. We voted.
We lowered it $52,000 for a study.
Yeah, right. We voted against that study, so
Okay, so we can take that out.
take that out. I mean, that was a decision by the board.
Okay, our board of directors did approve that as well, so I will let them know.
Yeah.
that's what we discussed last meeting, right?
Right, correct.
So I make sure we're not,
Yeah, no, I had never had, since our 7 elected officials had already approved the board, it never had the council not approve it. So I just need to find the next steps for it since we're fiscally attached to Porter County.
The good thing I've seen is usually fee-based funds have a lot of money.
So,
So
Well-
I'm sure you're gonna find it.
We will, hopefully we will. And I just,
They have the money, they
No, I
just
don't
didn't
have-
approve it.
right, yeah.
We do a lot of cutting, Andy, and I see the.
No, that's right.
The levy-based fund.
I'm just saying,
They
it
always
was
seem
already
to-
there.
You know, so.
Yeah, I think there's some other thoughts behind that. So yeah, if you could just move that to the 13,000 that was approved during the second reading.
Sure.
That number, okay. All right. We good?
Perfect, yeah, perfect. Thank you, guys. Have a great.
All right.
Can I add one more count? When you talk about capital, just recall when you're talking about the IT stuff, I made this note. Yesterday and today, my staff have loaded 2 full dump trucks full of computers, old monitors. Please keep in mind when you look at capital, there is a cost to dispose and get rid of this stuff. And we're the ones who
No, you just
take over that.
record it and drop it off. That's what I do all the time.
I know, and we pay that bill. Thank you. Our recycling stuff went up double last year with electronics, so keep that in mind.
All right, thank you. All right. Debbie?
Okay, so I guess mine's kind of similar in that I did meet with Ryan, and I just wanted to confirm. I think when we went through the second reading, there was possibly just a misunderstanding, and I know it's, new auditors. I think the misunderstanding came with, if you remember last year, first-class telecommunicators were bought directly to Midpoint. No one else was. So I did go into Lau, and I believe that Lau looks good with, is it the $2,290,090 for the 1222 salaries? And that should be all mid, and then also with the 3%. 2290090, yes. And I wanted to, this is the case that I'd like to make. I noticed that you've decided to move $250,000 from foundation into the 1222 for telephones and internet. And we do, as you know, we have a surplus, so that's a good thing. And I'd like to argue that what I presented for first-class telecommunicators this year was 5%. So I'm very thankful that you've decided on 3%, above mid. But for where the first-class telecommunicators are, is that's actually take-home of about $20 a week, if you break it down in taxes and everything else. So I'm asking for an additional 2%. And there was some other salaries in the 1222 that I also requested increases. I was very encouraged that there was a lot of consensus on the council the last time I came before you, that you were discouraged with the disparity between myself and the assistant director. So I actually presented 10% above midpoint, which would be 7% more actually than the 3% that you're giving above midpoint. What I've done for then the first-class telecommunicators and the assistant supervisors to keep that disparity there is just 5% above midpoint, so it actually just be an additional 2%. And then I did, because of throughout the county there was some disparity amongst the executive assistant, I also bumped that wage up. Now, I'll give you the numbers. If you, right now, what I'm looking for with all of the wage proposals that I submitted originally, that would be another $41,000 out of surcharge. And I guess the case I'd like to make is I have really tried to, we do have a surplus, and over the past 2 years, last year and this year, we have moved a total of nearly $400,000 into the surcharge. So the surcharge hasn't been increased by the state for a while. That's kind of the scuttlebutt, Councilman Sims, that it may be increased. And so what I'm looking for is just specifically, I'd like to really, the first-class telecommunicators and assistant shift supervisors, bringing those up an additional 2%. And to add to my my plea, I think that you've recognized that, and I think it's a good decision that the council has made because of the need that you're seeing through the sheriff's department. We, as first responders in the 911 center, also, you know where we are with staffing, kind of the revolving door that we're facing. So if we can do that, I think that that would definitely be beneficial to our dispatchers.
Now, didn't we give you permission to give increases to 8 people?
The training increases is what you're talking about?
Yes, you did those stipends, yes. For trainers, yes, for the CTOs.
And those people aren't first class, assistant supervisor, none of those people we were asking for the 5%? They're not already getting that bump for being a trainer?
Some are. The assistant shift supervisors are required to train. So they do receive that. Right now, we have 2 additional that have stepped up to be CTOs. So we're at 6 right now.
You said that, this is what I heard, not what you said. Maybe I misheard. We've moved 400,000 in the last year and this year into this fund that wasn't in there before, right?
378,500.
So that seems like a big number. Like, where's this fund at? Can it sustain these kind of increases?
The surcharge? Well, no. And we know this. We discussed it last year. Right now, I think that last year we about broke even. We dropped a little bit in our cash carry forward. But at this point, no, it is not a solvent. The 1222 is not solvent.
It's sustainable for a while. It built up a cash. I mean, Debbie, I almost had the recorder beat me up in the hallway because of the same discussion. We're trying to relieve the general fund, and he made an argument back to me about, well, fine then, if you're going to push things in there, then I want to give other raises out of that fund too. So his argument is the same. You want to give this out of the surplus. We've traditionally looked to relieve, the general fund as we continue to give raises, continue to, fund the employee health care. And so we need to, when these different fee-based funds grow balances, we shift things into those funds to try to, give relief to the general fund. And it's allowed us, for a very long time to not continuously go to or really ever go to the taxpayers about raising, taxes when people have 600,000, $1 million, sitting in different funds. So that's, what we've done. And we keep track, and previous auditor, I'm sure these guys, along with, Auditor Martin, will ring the bell when, funds getting low or laws changed. And, so yeah, we've shifted things over in there because that fund was building a balance. And, so I would just continue to say, hold the line. We're giving raises, and if there's something that's out of parity out there, then we definitely should address it. Next year sometime. Maybe that assistant. So, but I don't think there's anything to panic about, Andy.
No, my question was because if we're already at a risky point, putting another $40,000-$50,000 in there just makes the problem worse and come to head quicker.
Yeah.
So that's why I was kind of asking that.
Yeah. So, but the line is the same though, Ryan, Dave, what we approved on second reading?
Yep.
So the line, all right, so. Well, I appreciate it. Debbie, is everything?
Okay, so I guess that's exactly what I saw in Loud today. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, this number you're showing us now doesn't include the 5%. I mean, it's just what we stated, okay?
Correct.
The health department. Hello.
Hey. We just wanted to come up and double check really quick because on second reading, our midpoint raises weren't in there. So now everything that's in Lao is correct. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were good with.
You guys good with the health department?
Yep.
Okay. You guys are good?
Does the bottom number look right to you?
Yeah, what we printed off today was correct. We just wanted to make sure you guys were okay with it because like we said, there was some confusion about the midpoints at second reading. So we just wanted to make sure.
Right?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
That was easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so
Good nurses double checking.
Sylvia. All right, so I think we're just, again, right, we're under $2 million. Ryan, to the general fund is what we increased, Dave, which is a lot. So it's our commitment to get to midpoint, everybody in the county plus 3% raises this year. We did add some hourly. There was a decent amount of hourly in there, but there was also some other.
Was that a percentage or?
No, we approved, remember a couple, you
Yeah.
yelled at me.
Second.
Yeah, you yelled at me, I'm one of the judges, yeah. So, and we approved a few other things, the sheriff and the costs, some of the stuff out there, so. If everybody's good, you don't have anything else to say about the budget, we can begin final reading. The auditor's office will read off the final numbers, just the large numbers, and we'll.
Do you want to address the perpetuation fund before that, or you want to do it afterwards? I do think the recorder and the council now are on the same page in terms of the affidavit and the ordinance. You want to do that?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's up to you.
We had been working with the recorder for the last couple of years. He had some big projects, and he was one that had a fee-based fund, a funny fund we've called them around here, that was building a balance. So, we started pushing, I think, over the years, some things into there, and he had some big projects coming up. So he's used that fund for some projects, and I'm going to blame Andy Bozick, who wanted to take all of his money, and I went along with it, and then Chuck wanted to fight me in the hallway. So, but it's what we're looking at, and in fairness too, and I know she's not going to want to hear this, but I've directed our attorney to. I want to know exactly what that clerk perpetuation fund can be used for. We find people that are building cash balances, and our state legislators create these different perpetuation funds, fee-based funds, and they have limited use, and it just seems weird because then all of a sudden they're just growing and growing in their balances because they've limited uses. And again, why we're struggling to give out raises or new employees. People have cash balances of whatever, $300,000, $400,000, $700,000. So, yes, Clerk Bailey, I'm gonna see what that law says and come after your perpetuation fund. So, if I can, and even if I can, I think they just write the auditor up. So, so it's So we had to work. Again, we asked the recorder for some more, and we ended up coming in the middle. So he did give more money too, and I appreciate that, Chuck. And we're just going to continue to look at these funds that build balances. Why we struggle to give raises or hire new employees. So I don't know, Harold, is that a fair assessment of the situation? And we have.
It is, and the statute just requires that there be an affidavit signed by the recorder, which he has signed, and I have the original today with that number.
Okay.
And I won't go through the whole affidavit because we've already circulated it, but, so I have the amended affidavit from the recorder, and then the ordinance that the council has to enact tonight with that particular same number. Because if we intend to enact the ordinance tonight, we're doing it on the same night as first reading. Council has to vote unanimously to enact the ordinance on the same night as the first reading. So we would need to have a vote on the enacting the ordinance on the same day as the first reading. If we're gonna do that tonight, we'll need to do that.
Which is fine. I think if we can do it tonight, let's get through final reading, and then we can circle back and clean this housekeeping up. So, is Andy out vaping? Health department, can you guys talk to him, please? So, if everybody's good, to just let him read the numbers off, and
Yeah.
entertain a motion. I mean, we're still, you guys, we're probably gonna end the year, you know, with a healthy general fund, but I think, you know, we're probably beginning to get out over ourselves a little bit with the capital stuff with IT and the raises we've, you know, given out. So, you know, we may have, you know, created I'm not entirely sure, but because of the new revenue that we're bringing in, you know, I'm not gonna say it. So,
It's tough.
but,
It's tough.
all right, so can we get, final reading, third reading? Thanks, Sylvia. Throw things at me once in a while.
Just a reminder, some of these will be slightly lower due to advertisement issues. With movings of funds, we advertise at a certain amount, we can't go over that, so some of these will just be read at that amount and then additional.
So we'll have a couple funds that we'll have to just a little housekeeping at the beginning of the year.
Correct.
So just, okay, yeah, perfect.
Yep, and everything and that end is all outside of the general fund, so nothing within.
Perfect.
With that here,
Just carry on.
with that, here's final reading for 2024 budgets. General fund, 47,279,519. Non-reverting fund, 298,600. Reassessment fund, 595,636. Bond number 2, 2,068,318. Bond number 3, 1,345,900. Bond number 4, 2,300,000. Local income tax, 6,753,430. Police pension, 250,000. Historical Society, 5,000. Animal Shelter, 22,000. Convention and Visitors Bureau, 2,508,306. Highway, 5,187,748. Local Roads and Streets, 2,085,000. Cumulative Bridge, 7,999,000.
No, you're right.
7,999,256. Health Fund, 2,420,403. Civic Center, $640,005. Continuing Education, 2,500. Emergency Telephone System, $2,820,090. Park Fund, $211,620. Parking Garage, $17,400. Plan Commission, $910,729. Cumulative Capital Development, $2,598,809. Special Airport General, $1,523,109. Special Airport Cumulative Building, $338,555. Special Solid Waste Management, $1,890,446. Solid Waste District Debt Service, $13,000. Special Fire General Fund, $147,720. Special Cume Fire Fund, $94,085. County Corrections, $129,000. County User Fee Prosecutor, $343,478. Health Maintenance, $100,900. Foundation Budget, $3,089,036. LEPC, $18,000. Recorder Perpetuation, $400,279. GIS, $72,716. Prosecutor Pretrial Diversion, $145,318. Juvenile Probation User Fees, $120,260. Adult Probation User Fees, $499,631. Surveyor Perpetuation, $208,595. Firearms, $147,560. Extradition, $5,000. Hazardous Substances, $40,755. Vehicle Inspection, $5,000. Accidents, $14,400. Domestic Violence Grant, $212,621. Cable TV Franchise, $1,100,000. County IVD incentive, 135,716.
Stop grant, 57,807. Memorial Opera House, 544,773. Public safety data tech, 353,986. Jury fees, 45,000. Elected officers official training fund, $11,085. Clerk 4D, 91,362. Prosecutor 4D incentive fund, 184,058. Wildlife donation fund, 24,275. Photo duplicate fund, $7,200. ARPA, 28,086,025. Clerk perpetuation, 222,889. State criminal alien assist, 3,900. Health Trust Tobacco account, 40,295. Circuit Court Family Court, 31,348. Stormwater, 4,205,370. Inmate Processing Fund, 131,282. Trail Fund, 20,500. Juvenile Probation Admin Fee, 9,077. Circuit Court DCS, 10,765. Animal Shelter Donation, 181,344. Riverboat Fund, 407,239. Circuit Court ADR, 9,272. Addiction Response Grant, 12,000. Juvenile Detention Codes Fund, 83,853. Forfeiture Pass-Through Fund, 200,000. MOHIAC Grant, 9,530. Sheriff County User Fees, 25,510. Sex and Violent Offender Admin Fee, 13,783. Hospital Sale Proceeds Fund, 665,000. Drug Task Force Fund, 150,722. Public Defender Supplemental, 114,000. Prosecutor 4D PCA, 10,000. Medical Care for Inmates, $10,100. DEA Proceeds Fund, 125,000. Portage School Resource Officers Fund, 251,493. Countywide 911 System, 293,594. Bioterrorism Response Grant, 101,693. Sheriff Overweight Vehicle Fund, 6,500. Highway Overweight Vehicle Fund, 50,000. Sheriff Donations Fund, 20,000. Sheriff Adult Community Corrections, 275,398. Court Community Corrections, 81,572. Adult Probation Community Corrections Fund, 201,055. Health IIC Grant, $129,050. Videotape fees, 6,000. Health Insurance Fund, 12,575,000. Unsafe Building Fund, 200,000. Highway Engineering Fund, 160,000. Ditch Fund, 760,000. Animal Control Fees Control, 69,284. Animal Shelter Fees Shelter, 118,618. Highway Community Crossings, 1.2 million. Court Interpreter Grant, 10,800. District 1 Task Force Fund, 44,500. VASIA Guardianship Grant, 60,000. Stormwater Bond Construction Fund, 2,725,000. Sheriff Overtime Fund, $155,016. COVID Immunization Vaccine Support Fund, $261,120. COVID Epidemiology Lab, $1,100. COVID Workforce Co-op, $187,914. Opioid Restricted Fund, $81,001. Health Department ARPA Lead Grant, $18,160.
Is that it?
That's it.
Ryan and Dave sharing the task over there like he told us. You guys are one.
Right.
So there is final reading that includes everybody to midpoint and 3% raises and a little more for the sheriff and the prosecutor. And I know that they brought Edie with, so I didn't screw anything up tonight. So, but I'll entertain a motion to
Approved.
approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion on closing out the 2024 budget. Could we get a roll call, please?
Sylvia Graham,
Yes.
Greg Sims,
Yes.
Jeremy Rivas,
Yes.
Fred Stone,
Yes.
Mike Brickner,
Yes.
Andy Bozick,
Yes.
Andy Vasquez,
Yes.
7-0.
Budget is adopted for 2024. The budgets, and to go with that, we have Harold, the housekeeping on the recorder perpetuation fund. So if you guys, it's an ordinance with an accompanying affidavit. So if we get this done now, and to do it in one night, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and pass the ordinance on first reading. Is that
Would like to make a motion to suspend the rules, pass on the first reading.
Second.
Second.
motion? A couple seconds to pass the ordinance with the accompanying affidavit on first reading. Discussion. And the amount is $187,758, and it's an ordinance adopting a request to pay an identifiable portion of a recorder's 2024 expenses from perpetuation fund with the accompanying affidavit. There's no discussion. Can we get a roll call on the suspension of the rules?
We all have to vote yes. If one votes no, it doesn't pass.
We can't pass it tonight. We get a roll call?
Yes.
Mike Brickner,
Yes.
Fred Stone,
Yes.
Jeremy Rivas,
Yes.
Greg Sims,
Yes.
Sylvia Graham,
Yes.
Andy Vasquez,
Yes.
0.
So then I would entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance accompanying affidavit, the ordinance, adopting a request to pay an
Motion to adopt the
identifiable
ordinance.
I second.
expenses from perpetuation fund. Motion and a second to adopt the ordinance and the accompanying affidavit. Further discussion, can we get a roll call on the adoption?
Jeremy Rivas,
Yes.
Fred Stone,
Yes.
Mike Brickner,
Yes.
Andy Bozick,
Yes.
Andy Vasquez,
Yes.
Sylvia Graham,
Yes.
Greg Sims,
Yes.
7-0.
Chuck, thank you very much.
Chuck, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So do we need to sign both or something? Chuck sign that one,
The affidavit, would just,
I'll sign it.
an exhibit to the ordinance.
So, Andy, our next meeting, usually you guys have combined them, and I'll get into it a little more, but I don't think we can because we've had the bond, talking to bond council. We gotta, approve that before December so they can sell the bonds. So I would just say that I know it's right after Thanksgiving, but we just stick with our November 28th meeting, if that's okay with everybody else. Pass the bond. And maybe, I'm not sure at that point if we get the message out, get all your housekeeping done in November, and maybe we just don't meet in December at all. So, but then we would need to, if that's okay, we have to pass a salary ordinance before the year's end, so, we can make certain that we have the salary ordinance,
Have that ready to go.
have it ready to go on, November 28th. So, Andy, well, I appreciate the hard work and the patience of all the elected officials and department heads. I think to me, it was fair. I know not everybody's happy. I see some snarling out there and some dirty looks. But, there was a lot of heavy lifting, like I started off by saying, to do the wage study, and we're done with it for now. I won't be around, but maybe the Andys and Red and Sylvia and Mike and Greg will be here, and maybe 10 years or so, or whenever, maybe you do another one. I wouldn't say anytime soon, but maybe it's done every 10 years or something. We'll be gone, Sylvia.
That's good. 10
Yeah,
years.
10 years. So,
It was heavy lifting, but it had to get done. I mean, you have to take,
It had to be done, but
you know.
our government was stymied for 2 years while we
Right.
did that. The growth, getting new employees and that was almost stymied.
So I'm glad it's over, and I hope everybody's happy. We've given out a lot of raises. So, but the last part of that I said I wanted to get into a little bit. Do you guys have that The
Back
ordinance.
What?
Who's got the ordinance? Can you keep the affidavit with the ordinance? No, you're okay.
Bring it
Uh,
up.
So we put, I think you guys saw it, $50,000 in the council's budget. So Joy, you can't spend it on any more furniture, but, and that's my opinion, is hopefully to hire Baker Tilly and have them look at the revenue side of things in county government. You know, I've been up here, it's not new, I've been up here talking about roads and stormwater. Novotny, I think Mike, I invited him up here in the springtime. Maybe it was Mike, you came up and kind of gave another assessment of where we're at with stuff. And we're gonna run out of places to find a couple extra $1 million real quick to try to even keep up with our roads. Stormwater,
Same thing.
same thing. So, but also there's been a growing conversation about public safety and the municipalities and towns asking about a public safety tax. And this county has been just very, very conservative, maybe to a fault at times. But I would, like to have Baker Tilly look at that, look at the roads, look at the stormwater, look at anything else out there, but if we're gonna look at public safety, I would want them to look at the whole criminal justice system. And that's what I was talking about earlier is, because the first thing that happens is the 911 call, right, Debbie? And then it's the officers, responding, or
JDC,
Or-
perfect example there.
or or it's the ambulance or the fire departments, which is the ambulance service portion of that. We cover ambulance service for probably maybe half, Scott, the population in the county.
Provide ambulance service
About 100,000.
that doesn't live in Valpo.
Okay.
73,000 plus.
So the commissioners did a great job of negotiating that contract down years ago, but then some things changed. The dynamics changed with Chesterton and Burns Harbor. So that is probably gonna double or triple. And I know there's been conversations about fire territories, but for whatever reason, we can't seem to get that off the ground. But I think that's a whole nother conversation with maybe the legislators and stuff. But, once that officer responds, I get, and they arrest somebody, then it's the jail, right? And then from the jail, it's the judges. The judges, it's at that point in time, it's the prosecutor, it's the prosecutor and public defenders, and, from whatever happens, it's either maybe back to jail or probation. So I think the biggest forgive me, Sheriff, not like, it's been coming from the police departments, about the public safety, but, and I'm willing to take a look at it, but it can't be done just one cog. The whole criminal justice system has to be looked at because they're all connected. So, that would be my request, Baker Tilly, is to get in and look at the whole criminal justice system and the funding of that. So that, if it's, your detention officers, if it's probation, you guys, we get a new color of Prosecutor Gurman's by the numbers every year, and he changes his argument and, he fights and fights. So that would be, my next move to engage Baker Tilly to look at the revenue side, in county government. We've been really, really conservative for a long, long time, and we've done good. But again, I go back to the whole capital portion when we continue to spend on personal services. Capital always gets left behind, and those ticket items are big: roads and stormwater, IT that we talked about tonight. And I think we can probably fund that for a little while down the road with the new revenue, but we're also getting into that new revenue with our personal services. So You know, that's my plan, to engage Baker Tilly, to look at the revenue side of county government that hasn't really been looked at in a long time. We have the lowest income tax rate in the state, and I don't even think we can say that because half of that income tax isn't even used on government, county government. Half of it goes to the RDA, which was state, Sylvia, you remember the state legislators? So 0.25 goes to the RDA and the other half goes to the homestead, credits for our homeowners. So really, we're governing off of 0.25 in the state. So, but we've done a great job. And fortunately, we had the foundation. When we sold the hospital, there was what happened with it is we started putting things in it that were in the general fund, and soon enough, we were spending a lot out of there, and then we went to the whole smoothing process. But that process of us doing that, and we spend now about $5 million out of there, it has probably saved us from raising taxes for a while. It's probably, we're spending $5 million, I think we just passed the lit budget at, Scott, what was our lit budget, $6 million?
Your lit budget's around 6.8, your foundation budget's around 5.
So that, so the 0.25 is generating over 6 million, so we've basically saved, by using the foundation, we didn't have to, increase for a long time that 0.25. We've saved the taxpayers that by using the foundation. And, I know the cities and towns, well, it's not fair you've got that, but we also fund the jail out of there, jail medical, the food, the insurance for our employees, 911 stuff, things that really do affect the entire county. Our social services come out of there at a couple million.
Opportunity Enterprises.
Yeah, so it's we haven't wasted that foundation. So, but I think we're getting to a point with those things that are out there. We're a growing county that we've got to look at the revenue side of things, and I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm going to engage Baker Tilly and have them look at it, but especially the criminal justice system is so big, and that's what we're in charge of it. City and town, they, in doing a great job, they get the call and respond, as professionals they are, but then once they drop them off at the jail, that's when we take over, in the system that we're in charge of. So, and it's a big system, and we've been doing a great job on limited resources. We're a growing county with limited resources. I understand that. So, but that's what I was just going to say. We're going to take a look at it. So there's some hope. And we're going to take a look at it all. So that was what I hope that you can leave with, a little bit of hope. And we've been responsible. We'll continue to be responsible. But like I said too at the beginning, the taxpayers, they want the best government, but they're not always willing to pay for it, right? So there's that balance of trying to figure it out. So, but with that, I'll just go back to, I think it was a good budget session. We finished what we went out to do, the wage study. We gave raises, and I think we're red. There's always things to do and not enough money to do it. So let's finish this year off and roll into 2024. So does anybody got anything to add, to throw at me, to say?
Not in regards to the budget, but I do want to bring up that I was talking to Joy before the meeting, and we are talking about being ready to live stream the next meeting. So obviously that's beneficial to the public to see our meetings live, but also to, like, if we're in a 4 or 5 hour budget meeting and you're towards the end of the budget, you know what we're talking about when, so maybe you come a little later and don't waste your time watching all the other people. So I just thought that was beneficial. Maybe some of the department heads will find that helpful, and hopefully we continue down that path. But it'll be our first time live streaming, so if it fails, it's still being posted the next day, but this way it'll be live so you guys can see what we're talking about as we're talking it.
Anybody else besides our I call him our open door guru, Andy. He wants as much available to the general public, and rightfully so, and he's making sure the doors are open and signs are posted and the live stream is going on, and so Jake, I see you back there, and yes, you're on my mind too, you know. The parks have taken a back seat to a lot, and, you know, it's one thing I want to make certain that we can find moving forward too, and when we look at the revenue side of things. So, I appreciate what you're doing, what everybody's doing in this county, and what they've been doing, you know, with limited resources. To a certain degree, we've poured a lot of it into our employees, and I know you'll say not enough, but we're trying and we'll continue to try. So, has anybody got anything in closing? Finish up? I think I've said enough tonight.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk about the Baker Tilly study. I think it could be important so we all get an understanding of what's out there and what we're facing. So I know the commissioners, I believe, paid for the one for, you know, looking at all the funds, and it's eye-opening, you know.
Yeah. And Baker Tilly they did the one that we had them do very similar, maybe 3 years ago or something. They've also, I think they did stuff for stormwater. So Baker Tilly knows, you know, and that's, if they're available, they know our funds well. I mentioned it to the auditor's office, and they have a great working relationship with them, so that matters, you know, too. So, but anything else?
Can I say something?
No.
Okay.
So, anybody else? Yes, Ryan.
To let everyone know, actually right after this, Dave have to take off to Indy, for conference, so we won't be here the next 2 days. However, Lao Budget is open for view only, so everyone can go into Lao Budget. If you have access to it, I understand some of you don't. Take a look at everything. Your budgets are in there. I will have all 144s updated and ready to go next Monday. Or either I can send them out, put them on the day drive, or you can come pick them up. But everything will be done, ready to go by next Monday in full for your budgets and your 144s. So.
And thank you, and thank the auditor's office, the auditor and Dave and Ryan going through this process with us. And nothing's perfect. We'll have to do some corrections at the beginning of the year, and if we miss things, just let them know. And you know, we're working together, and we'll continue to do that to move the county forward. So appreciate your guys' help. Appreciate everybody in this budget session. So,
Yeah, good work, guys.
You as well.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn till the 28th.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.